So, is ethanol gas the answer? Today we're going to take a look. Stay tuned for the special Car Corner edition of Prudent Money. Good afternoon. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thanks so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. Tony Joe's here with me every Friday as he talks about cars, and we'll even take your questions. All you have to do is go to the website, www.prudentmoney.com, and there's a link that says Ask Bob. Just send them then, and we'll get you taken care of. That's off the website, www.prudentmoney.com. Tony Joe, how are you?
Good. How are you, sir?
You know, I got to tell the story of your hat and the misspelled word the other day.
Oh, really?
I can't. It came up in my mind as I was talking about something on the radio. I said, "Tony Joe's got this hat."
Isn't it amazing how I wore that thing for 4 months before I ever noticed?
I never noticed. I never noticed. I don't think anybody, because there's that tendency to see a word and you see it as it's supposed to be.
Isn't that amazing how your mind plays tricks like that? But I think I should take that back and get a discount for a misspelled word.
I think that you potentially have a valuable piece of history there.
Possibly. Oh,
I mean, a hat that was. Where'd you get
unique
that hat?
item. Yeah.
Where'd you get that hat?
I don't know. I don't remember.
That troubles me.
I liked it, so I bought it.
You bought it,
and you know what? I never noticed the misspelling when I bought it. So,
well, it's good. It's a good looking hat.
Hey, you're darn tootin'.
And you've left it over my.
And I've asked you, please don't wear it when I forget it at the studio.
I guarantee you, I have not worn it.
And every time I see you out, you're wearing my hat.
Yeah, busted. I just don't know. Well, yeah, I'm glad that you got your hat with the misspelled word. You even had it on today.
I do.
Earlier.
I wear it proudly.
Well, so we've got the same problem we had last week and the same problem we had the week before, and it's just inching up and getting higher. Gas prices. Let's talk a little bit about that, because you're starting to hear words that you probably don't want to hear. Things like shortages, which I think is probably a little bit of over dramatization. Or do you think? I mean, because we're talking 20. Not this is a small percentage, but 20 to 25%. If that literally got cut off and stopped of production through that waterway in Iran, then do you still have a 70 style situation?
You know, we actually will, and I'm going to tell you right now, my opinion only. From what I see, it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. We are going to experience shortages. Well, yeah, if things go the way I'm watching them today and things don't change within a day or two, literally a day or two, that strait doesn't open up, I can see prices, you think they're high now, I can see them going really, really high, and I can see a shortage, which is going to make the price go even higher. So the compounding problem that I see is the strait. Now, here's something that I just wanted to point out, and that is we are actually global exporting number one in the world as far as that goes. But it's misleading. And if you want to talk about it, Bob, you can ask me anything you want. But that's a misleading idea when you say that. There's a lot more to it.
Yeah, it's very complicated, and here's the thing: is that you and I were talking a little bit about debate, and we were debating a little bit about what's going on over there, and
bantering back and forth.
Bantering, yes, we call it bantering. That's what friends do when they debate.
We banter. Mm-hmm.
We banter. So, if you look at all of what's going on, you come up with your own opinion, your own interpretation. When at the end of the day, you're not talking to generals. You're not talking. You don't know what's really going on. Mm-hmm. What troubles me though is you just kind of see some of the things that are happening, and it seems a little bit desperate on our side, a little bit. But I just say that because it makes me wonder. They're looking at all this and going, "Oh, we are running into a shortage, or we're running into whatever's concerning them at the time."
Right.
Because it's just you get the politicians and everybody on TV, and it's just a spin factory of
Yeah.
how we won the war and are winning the war, and it's very interesting when you think about human nature
Yeah. Uh,
and politics.
Granted. No, I agree with you. I just the amazing thing to me is that the strait is not open. Now, we don't
Yeah.
know why. There's a ton of different reporters that'll tell you 20 different reasons, but that strait is a chokehold on the global market because if you cut off 20% of your 25%, between 20 and 25, I don't know. You cut that off of the market, you're going to create a very delicate situation because everybody else in the world needs oil too. So by cutting off the supply and demand goes up, the price goes up. And we have to realize that something people forget, or I think about a lot, Bob. Remember back in COVID when they had oil tankers floating out there in the Gulf, waiting for weeks to come into port and unload? Well, the oil isn't necessarily always the problem. If the strait were opened up immediately and all the oil tankers started flowing again, that's not the issue. It's when they get there, I have always said, you don't have to control the price of oil, really. All you got to do is control the price of the refining. If you refine it slower, you're going to create more of a demand and more of a shortage. If you refine it faster, you're going to be able to bring the price down because you're going to flood the market with oil. So you don't have to control the oil in itself. Once the strait opens and we get all tankers flowing to Houston and Texas City and stuff, you can only refine so much. There's only so many refineries.
And it's not like they can.
It's not going to be
It's not
magic.
like they have places to put it.
Right. They don't have place. They're going to sit there just like during COVID when oil went into a negative, remember?
Right.
There was so much oil out there, but if you can't refine it, you can't just unload it out of the boat and put it in your car.
The other thing I also wonder if they were to open it up, how many of these tankers can actually, liability wise, take the chance of going through there because something could happen. I don't know what that would be, but you just think you've seen crazier things happen, and maybe it's an insurance thing. If insurance company saying, "Hey, we insured your boat. If you take it through that tanker through there, something happens. It's all on you." I don't know. I'm just throwing them out, throwing some of these things out there.
Well, my understanding is there's a mountain range. There's a couple of islands other than Karg Island. You know that, right?
Right.
Okay. And they hide in these little pockets of rocks. They got these little hideouts, and they can fire at ships going because the strait is only a couple of miles wide from what I heard. I don't know that to be fact, but that's a pretty narrow channel that can be controlled if you have people with weapons and they can fire upon ships going through there. And then the other thing is, who knows if it's been mined. So all this is going to have to be eliminated before we can have free passage through the straits. And I don't know how long that's going to take, but Lloyd's of London and whoever insures all these things, they're not going to take a chance because
No.
that's an awful lot of money that could go boom.
So here's the latest thing that has happened, and of course, in Washington's always looking for solutions, and it's kind of a PR. I'm guessing. I think it's kind of a PR thing as well. Hey, this is what we're going to do when the net end result doesn't even move the needle. But I'll read this to you. The
Okay.
U.S. Environmental Protection Agency said in a statement released on Wednesday, March 25th, that it has issued a temporary emergency fuel waiver to allow nationwide sales of E15 gasoline blended with 15% ethanol, and to remove all federal impediments to selling E10 gasoline blended with 10% ethanol across country. The agency said the waiver would start on May 1st, 2026, and it will last until May 20th, 2026. The EPA noted 20 days is the maximum window they could authorize more use of ethanol gas under the Clean Air Act. This was very interesting. Catherine actually told me about this. She said she saw it, and I hadn't really seen anything on TV and
I didn't either.
and the media. And if you don't know that, I'm really even more surprised because you keep real close to things like
Right.
this.
I'd never heard of
So
such a thing until
the
now.
questions that come up for me, and we'll start talking about some of these in a second. One, 20 days is not going to move the needle. I mean, I wouldn't think of this sort of kind of gas blend. But let's start off with what is ethanol, because that's obviously nothing that we don't know of or are not experiencing in our own day-to-day world.
Sure. Yeah, a lot of people aren't familiar, but whenever you pull up to the gas pump and get a gallon of gas, you're getting 10% of that fuel in the form of alcohol. It's alcohol extracted from corn, which we have plenty of in the Midwest, and because of that, we substitute our gasoline with ethanol, which is an alcohol, and it's for the purpose of it is to burn cleaner out the tailpipe so that the car's lower emissions. However, there's some points to alcohol that are not good for your car. However, it's been in practice for years and years and years. And if you ever really want to notice, if you haven't already noticed, next time you go to get gasoline, any gasoline station, you pull up to the pump, and before you push the button to actually fill your car, there's a little sticker that says may contain up to 10% ethanol. Now, that has to be posted because may contain up to 10%, in my opinion, is a misnomer. I've actually tested fuel supplies in cars when I'm having a lot of trouble getting them running right. And that 10% is a misnomer. I've seen more than 10% a lot of times.
Yeah. I don't see how the regulators would even catch that.
Well, I
mean,
don't
in
know how
bulk,
they
yes.
how would they control it really right down
Right.
to 10%. But
So let's talk. E10 is obviously ethanol, stands for ethanol 10, I would assume. E15, so you're talking about 5 more percentage points. I mean, what kind of benefit could that even bring? And as you ratchet up the percentage, what kind of damage are you doing to your car?
well, that's kind of a questionable thing because there are many, many cars out there now. If you have flex fuel written on the back of your car somewhere, usually it's posted on the vehicle somewhere, but if you have a flex fuel engine, you can use really E85, which is 85% ethanol and 15% gasoline. So it's not going to hurt the vehicle.
E85.
E85 is the highest quantity of ethanol that there is. It's E85. You'll find it in a lot of places. You can find it right here in Dallas, but flex fuel vehicles can use a gallon of fuel that's 85% ethanol and only 15% gasoline. So be aware that if you have a flex fuel vehicle, you can use anywhere from 0 to 85% ethanol, and it's not really going to affect your car at all. Not drivability-wise. It does, but we'll explain that if you want to get into it more. If you have a car that is not a flex fuel vehicle, 10% ethanol is already enough. That's why I hate to have people put additives, gas treatments, things like that. You're just adding more alcohol. 10% ethanol in the gallon of gas that you're getting is already hard on the fuel system, the fuel pump, the filter, the fuel injectors. There's a number of things that are detrimental to using 10%. Now, we're going to bump it up to 15%. For those cars that are not flex fuel cars, that's going to make things even worse. So I can see a 20-day period. To me, that seems like they're trying to just what we used to call in COVID flatten the curve, like the
Right.
demand and the supply. To me, that sounds like it's just temporary, going to flatten the curve. How much damage will it do? Probably not a lot, just in a 20-day
Well,
period.
think about it too. 20-day period. How many people are, if you took all the people in the United States, how many people are going to know that that this is even going on?
Yeah.
First thing. Second thing is, once again, are you really going to see a price cut or a savings, a value, whatever? Are you going to be able to get that out of this situation? I wouldn't say, it's going to be earth shattering.
No, actually, I will fill you in on that real quick if you give me a second.
Sure, go ahead.
Remember we talked about putting a gallon of cheap fuel in a car and going as far as you can go until the car runs out of gas, and you say went 12 miles. And then you put that same car, you put a gallon of good fuel, good quality fuel in there, and you might go 16 miles, okay? So the benefit is you get better fuel mileage. You get farther on that 1 gallon of gasoline. Well, the problem with ethanol is that it doesn't burn effectively. It doesn't burn efficiently. Well, it burns too efficiently, you might say. It burns up. You don't get the benefit of the fuel economy when you have ethanol in the fuel. It makes the emissions cleaner coming out of the tailpipe, but it does not do anything for your fuel economy. It makes it worse. So 15% to me right now, and I really have to think this through, Bob, but to me right now, my first impression is almost laughable. Going to
Right.
15% alcohol is going to lower the fuel economy that cars are going to get. It means it's going to burn quicker. They can't go as many miles on a gallon of gas. So if you're trying to stretch out your supply, you're just making it worse. People are going to burn that fuel quicker and need more fill-ups. Do you understand? Am I articulating that
No,
in a
no,
way
yeah,
you
no,
can understand?
yeah,
it?
absolutely, absolutely.
To me, it makes sense, but I might not be explaining it right. But if it burns quicker, you're just going to need more of it. So I'm not sure how this is going to work.
I think that example works better when you compare a Texaco gas that's the premium to a racetrack or one that's cheaper gas. You're getting the gas cheaper, obviously. But what you're saying is that you burn through it quicker.
So what's the
than-
point?
Yeah,
You're
so you're really not getting that.
You're spinning your wheels.
Right.
And you
No
said
pun intended.
right. You said premium Texaco, and then you said premium. I just want to make sure people don't misunderstand. You mean good fuel quality,
right,
as
right.
opposed to poor fuel quality. You
Right.
didn't mean premium as in
I'm
93
sorry,
octane
no,
for
no.
$5 a gallon.
No,
Right.
exactly. Well, and good lead in. Let's talk a little bit about this because this is I think a question. Most people they drive up, gotta get gas, and they'll look at the three choices, and then they'll say, "Does it really matter if I pick this one at the this cheaper?" Talk a little bit about, and let me kind of break it down a little bit. Talk about the three different grades of fuel and how much octane you're actually going to see in those three levels of fuel.
Okay. Well, as a lot of people know, you pull up to the gas pump, you got three choices usually. You've got 87, 89, and 92 or 93, depending on which fuel station brand, I guess, you're at. But basically, the three choices, 87, 89, and 93. What does that mean? Well, the number that represents is the octane rating in the fuel. Octane. What is it? Do we need it? Well, yes. Octane is the volatility of the fuel as soon as you begin to burn it. Once the spark occurs at the spark plug and you want to ignite that fuel mixture inside the combustion chamber, how fast does it burn? How quick does it light? And how fast does it burn? Well, octane, the higher the octane, the faster that flame front is going to allow that combustion mixture to burn. So If you have 87, once the spark ignites the fuel inside the engine, it burns at a certain rate. 89, it burns a little faster. 93, it burns a little faster. So you can have an engine that's supposed to take premium fuel only, 93 octane, and you can put 87 in there, and it will not burn quite as fast as it's supposed to or as the original engine design would allow it to be. But what happens if that happens? Well, you'll experience what we call pre-ignition, knocking. Pinging is an old word for it. All these things mean the same thing. The engine rattles, especially during acceleration. So if you put 87 octane in a car that requires premium fuel and you experience pinging, knocking, pre-detonation, whatever the label you want to call it, it usually occurs under heavy accelerations, and you'll hear like marbles rolling around in the engine. That means you probably ought to step up one grade to eliminate that. But in most cases, cars today are built in a certain way, and all of them that I've experienced so far all have what we call knock sensors, which will turn the timing back a little bit through the computer. It will actually hear the pinging before you do. These knock sensors will pick up on that detonation noise, tell the computer, hey, we're experiencing detonation. The computer will then retard the timing 3 or 4 degrees, and if it still detonates, the computer will retard it even more until the noise is gone. So I'm not sure that it's exactly necessary to put 93 premium fuel in a car that's labeled premium fuel only. The only thing I could tell you is to try going to 87 and see if it pings. If it doesn't ping, you can use it. If that computer can control the amount of detonation that's occurring, then you don't need to worry about it. The computer will handle the timing curve so that you're not experiencing any long-term damage.
So you're saying then that, which is something that gasoline producers probably don't talk about, is that you actually could potentially use the lowest grade.
Certainly,
I would have never thought that.
Yeah, I would definitely use the lowest grade anytime I
even if it's pinging.
Not if it's pinging, but that's Bob. I want to point that out to the listeners that have really high-end cars, really expensive high-end cars that may experience pinging, but in most cases, 99% of the cases, you're not going to hear anything. There's a few out there that you might, and I have to make sure that I warn people about it so that I don't mislead anybody. But if you're supposed to use premium fuel and you put in 87 octane and you don't hear any funny noises going off, because, you're used to your car, you're used to the noises it makes. And if you don't hear anything different and you don't experience any drivability problems, then you can use 87. Cheaper, good quality. Now, I'm not talking about going to an off-brand. I'm talking about good quality fuel, going to the lowest price grade, which is 87. That's the octane rating. And then just use 87. The computer will take care of most of the cars out there will have the ability to control that pinging or knocking or detonation with the use of a knock sensor, and then the computer will handle it from there. So it's not really necessary to use 93 octane.
How many people do you think really even have heard that before? I don't think that's something.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, I mean, I'm sure people have heard of that. But, sometimes you don't understand it.
Right.
So the more you hear it, the more sense it makes if you can just keep making it understandable to yourself. Because most of the people listening aren't mechanics. They don't know that. And, you've heard it here, you heard it there. But if you ever get it through your head and understand completely what I'm trying to explain right now, then I think you'll understand it. And then you go ahead and try it. I mean, it's...
Well, we will see how all this turns out. Pretty interesting stuff. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Special Car Corner edition of Prudent Money. If you had a question for me, please go to the website, www.prudentmoney.com, and send it in because we are all out of time. So until we do meet again next time, keep the faith and have a great rest of the day.
That's all the time we have for today. Questions or comments for Bob, or to find out more great information like what you've just heard, visit www.prudentmoney.com. Be sure to join Bob Brooks again for the next edition of Prudent Money.